takes us to the next phase. Thank you so much. Self-reflection is always the starting point. I agree. But then when you're in that next phase, now you're starting to lift your head up a little bit more and you're saying, okay, so I know what's going on with me. I know where I need to get better. Okay, I'm gonna have some real talk moments with myself. I know the fact that I don't receive feedback well. So when people say things to me that I don't want to hear, I cringe a little bit, I get defensive, I come at them. Or I don't necessarily want to work a little bit harder. I want to get off early. I want to do the status quo. I'm not really trying to challenge myself because I'm comfortable, right? So maybe those are some opportunities for me to improve. Now that I've assessed myself and I'm starting to work on myself, when I'm in a new environment and I'm in a new position or a new situation, like when I was at my new entry-level job, I was able to be very curious on, well, why are these things working this way? Well, I don't understand why this process is so inefficient. This doesn't make sense to me. Can you tell me more about it? And so I'm going to be very transparent in saying that sometimes when you look like us and you're in a corporate setting and you ask those questions, the fact that you're asking the question can feel out of sorts for some people, right? And so just being very mindful of the fact of who I am and the skin that I am, and being confident in owning the questions that I ask, just like they own the questions that they ask, if you know what I mean. And so I was able to look at things from a different perspective and say, okay, I want to understand how things work, but I want to understand how things work so I can get them improved, get them better, get them more efficient. And so after time, they started to open up to the fact that I was asking those questions, and I actually won an award for asking questions at the company that I was at. How about you? Because I know you're a very curious person. You challenge things. You ask a lot of questions.
It's a part of being curious is a way I was raised. I'll give credit to my dad. He would always ask me, come up to school. Did you ask questions? I don't understand this. Did you ask questions? I do. We got our son out here. He's probably heard this before. He says, what about this? I said, well, what happened when you asked them? You get an answer, say, why not ask a question? We think about I know we're in a church right now. Do we understand the mission of the church? If we're in an organization, a profession, do we understand the mission of that organization? What exactly are we looking to accomplish? If we're on a sports team, anybody here play sports? Anybody? You got sports players around here? We got to understand what the goal of the team is. What is it that we're trying to accomplish? Asking questions, being more curious to see what we can do to make a difference.
Yeah, then you can take things from good to great, because once you ask those questions, then you start to find those things that aren't working, and then you start to connect those pieces behind the scenes, and then people start to rely on you because you're asking the questions that no one else is asking. Who's ever heard that there's no such thing as a dumb question or a stupid question? That is the truth. Because here's the secret. The secret is, even if you're asking a question that people aren't ready for, or even if you're asking a question that someone already has the answer to, your question is igniting other questions. Your question is triggering the brainstorming process. And so it may feel very uncomfortable to ask that question at first, and we are all guilty of it. We have those qualifiers. We might start with, well, this might be a dumb question, or I might be way off, or this might not make sense. When you say things like that, you take the power away from you actually asking the question. So it's very important for you to own it. And like I said, I had to learn how to get comfortable in my skin, because let me tell you, I work in an environment where no one looks like me. Literally no one else looks like me, but I have to be able to own my skin. And when I ask a question now, they listen. So definitely be curious is the second piece of the success cycle that you have here.